We're a few days away from winter break, and today I attempted to teach while a full-grown man chased kindergartners back and forth throughout this courtyard that you see behind you, dressed completely as a gingerbread man. Sadly, that did not make my list. Today, we're going to be chatting about the top 10 challenges that elementary art teachers face. Hey there, my name is Katie Jarvis. If we haven't met before, I'm a K-6 elementary art teacher, and I teach at a Title I school just outside of Washington, D.C. The first challenge that we're going to dive into is large class sizes. Now, I just shared with you, I currently work at a Title I school. So we have some students in our school that are lower income, and our numbers are capped, a little bit smaller than other schools that might be in our area. But my previous school did not have those restrictions, and we had, I believe, up to 32 students in a class. Now, one thing I realized when teaching that many kids is you have to have really tight, solid management, from your routines to how you're dealing with all those materials. And I, at that time, would come up with my routine that I still use to this day, my opening routine. So how students come into the room, how we do a greeting together and go over the rules, and the Mona Lisa listening. And I have a message to introduce the project. That's the same each and every week, setting students up for success. If you want to know a little bit more about that routine and how I use that in my class today, I have a video called Do You Know How to Start Art that will give you a deeper dive. In my classroom, I had to really worry about the movement, and when you have that many bodies, there's not a lot of space to move around, even in a big art room. So I did mark things out on the floor with adhesive, like arrows that would stick down to show the traffic flow of, like, this is how you move to walk in front of the drying rack. These are the spots on the ground where you line up. So some management like that is needed just for the space and for the movement when you have that many little bodies in your room. I had 2 sets of everything. So my tables are marked with felt, little chair socks, I like to call them, and I divided my room up into the warm color tables and the cool color tables. And I had a set of art shirts that was just for the people that sat over on this side of the room, and a set of art shirts just for the people on the other side. Same with my scissors, same with all of my materials, so that there was a little bit more flow to how things could be quickly passed out. So I had helpers on each team passing things out. I would also utilize volunteers when I was at that school, and I did this in a couple different ways. I had volunteers help at the beginning of the year when we would do a giant school-wide collaborative mural, so that I wasn't spending hours and hours after school. We'd had one special afternoon where parents would come and help. Kids could kind of hang out and play in the art room as well, and we would glue together these projects. I also would set up a cart. So this I called my volunteer cart. It was just a small little cart that sat outside of the art room, but it always had jobs on it that needed to be done. Whether it was artwork that needed to be hung, artwork that needed to be returned to students, that would be there, copies that needed to be made. And when parents were in the building, perhaps maybe volunteering for something else, and they had a few extra minutes, they would check this cart. So it's something that I shared with the PTA. Each week, parents would come in and stuff folders with flyers and things that would go home and student work for the classroom teachers. So there was a lot of volunteers coming through the building that way. Many parents that worked really wanted to help out as well. So at the beginning of the year, especially when people are excited about the new school year, I would bag up some jobs like, I need 200 hearts cut out for Valentine's Day. Here's the paper, here's the pattern, here's the directions, here's an example of what one looks like. This is the date that I need it done by. And I would send those home. So that's a great way for you to manage those large class sizes, because I know it is not easy. Another big challenge that I think many art teachers face is time. Now, this could be having really short class periods. It could be managing the time that you have for planning and setting things up. It could be managing the transitions that you have between classes. All of it is extremely difficult. Now, I have a passion for saving time. And I have several videos that I'm hoping that you will check out. The first one is managing the time. So this is a video about how I, as an art teacher, manage the class time, tools that I use with my students so that they can visually see the time, and tools that I use as an art teacher. So I can manage my timer on my watch. I have an app that I use that tracks when the different classes are coming in. I also have a system where I'm maintaining checklists that I reuse each and every day to help me manage my to-dos, whether it's my morning to-dos, my afternoon to-dos, things that I need to do on the weekend. I use that entire management system. I have another great video called Managing the Transitions, because I, this year especially, have 0 minutes between many of my classes, and I've got like the back-to-back-to-back classes. One of the big things that's saving me this year is not just covering the tables, but double covering them. So I've got like 2 layers going on there. Whenever that top layer is really gross, we roll it up like a burrito and remove that. And then there's still a clean layer underneath. So that usually helps to get me through the day. I'm doing a lot of my messy projects right now at this point in the school year. So that's another thing about managing your time. Breaking up what do you want to be doing at what part of the school year. Do you want to do all the clay at once, or do you want to spread things out? Now, I have some wonderful time-saving tips as well, and I'm going to link those videos in the description down below. But those are things you're going to want to check out because they are going to save you time and give you some great ideas that you can use today in your art room. I've heard from a lot of art teachers that a struggle is space. Now, whether they don't really have a home within their school and they go into the classrooms on a cart, or they're in a trailer or another classroom that's just not really set up as an art room. Some people even share a space with another special or another teacher on alternating days. So there's a lot of challenges there. My top tip would be to communicate. So if you are sharing a space or you're having struggles, make sure that you're politely and positively sharing what those things are. People may have some solutions for you. Hey, I'm working on all these 3-dimensional projects. It's just so fun. The kids are having a great time. I don't really know where to keep them to dry. And you might find out there is a big empty storage closet or something like that within your school that nobody has shared with you before. So make sure that you're making your struggles known. You're communicating what some of your needs are. If you're on a cart, you could be asking the classroom teacher, when I come in, can you make sure, your table in the front or another area is cleared off so that we can put our art materials for the day? Or is there a way that you could have the classroom teacher clear off the student desk so that you can begin working? But communicating with them is going to be really key to getting that done. Make sure that you're also asking for help. They're going to see you struggling if you're in these kind of, not ideal situations, trying to make the best of it. So don't be shy and definitely ask for help and visit other people. There are experts that have been doing this for years, where they have been on a cart or teaching in a trailer, and they just know all the tips and tricks and the go around and what's worth your time and what's not. So you can be reaching out to other people on social media that are in a similar situation, or asking if you can go and shadow another art teacher for a day and follow them around and see what it's like to walk a day in their shoes in those unique space challenges. Along with not having an art room designated space, not having a sink or sinks can really be a challenge. I have 4 sinks in my art rooms. This is not something I am an expert on, but I still, at the beginning of the school year, ask for baby wipes to be donated. So I send a little half sheet of paper home, both in English and in Spanish, letting parents know that we need those and what we're going to use them for, so that students can clean up independently, help clean up the art room, but also to help clean up themselves just a little bit easier with those baby wipes. I also set it up on an Amazon wish list, so some parents will send a whole case of them in and they just get shipped right to the school. If you don't have a sink, coming up with some type of a bucket system of how you're going to have some opportunities where you're brave enough that you bring some water in and you change it out. The students will be eternally grateful that you go through that hardship so that they can have those experiences, but also be really creative and look around and advocate for yourself. Make sure your principal knows about things like quick sticks and temper cakes and things that could give students painting experiences and experiences with other materials, but that might not be so messy and require that sink. Without a doubt, the number one thing that I hear from art teachers that reach out to me is that they would like help with student behavior management. For me, having a behavior management plan really is key. So I know what I'm going to do if misbehavior occurs in my classroom, and my students are very clear on that as well. I have a video all about breaking down my management plan and how that works. There's a piece in there where I'm communicating with the classroom teacher. I have a paper that I send each and every week back with the classroom teacher called the Art Support Report. I have that on Teachers Pay Teachers if you want to take a peek. And that video is going to give you a deeper dive about how my system works. I do the rules with my students each and every week. That's something that I do also to set those high expectations. You have to give your students a lot of encouragement and a lot of positivity to help them kind of be proactive to get that good behavior that you are looking for. So along that line, I will do a rule refresh, reset, if you will, after winter break. I will do this again, like after spring break. I will do this anytime we have a couple of days off, like a snow day. And the winter break one, I've already recorded a video breaking down what I'm going to do for that refresh and reset. So that's a video you're not going to want to miss. I also have a fantastic video about how I am proactive and how I encourage positive behavior in my classroom in the first place, so I'm not needing to use that management plan very often for that misbehavior. I also have a video series where I show what worked for me and what didn't work for me as far as behavior management. I've been teaching for 22 years and I've learned a lot of things the hard way, and you shouldn't have to. So take a peek at that and see what you make of those videos and if there is some information that you can take away and start using in your classroom. A art room budget that is just way too small can be a challenge. I always say that you can't make something out of nothing. Now, when I first started teaching, I taught in Ohio, and I've seen there are schools out there that designate maybe like $1 for each student for the entire school year. There's a really big variance into what's going on with art budgets throughout the country. If you're in a situation where you don't have a lot, obviously you already know you gotta get creative. Definitely recycle. I know even in my situation, I check in with the cafeteria manager and ask, like, what's in your recycling bin? What does it look like when you get apples? What comes in between those apples? Do you have any little containers that you no longer use for side dishes and stuff like that we could use for mixing paint? Recently, I got a bunch of paint stirrers that paint stirrers to me, I think they were coffee stirrers. Don't ask me why an elementary school had those, but they didn't need them. So that was something that they passed on and my students have been using for mixing. I also got little French fry bags. No idea what I'm going to do with them, but I'm not throwing those away. I'll think of something. Maybe we'll make Model Magic French fries. But really get creative. Look for donations. Let people know that you are an art teacher, that you are collecting things. I know people from my neighborhood give me stuff all of the time, or they have the like free to good home, free cycle things. And I'll say that I'm a teacher, and a lot of times they'll take that price down to zero and just hand it off. So you really need to be on the lookout. One thing I also recommend is make sure that you don't give up and you really keep trying for those students and trying to put out the best product that you can with the little budget that you have, showing that you care about that art program. In my experience, I have been micromanaged before, maybe right as I was a new teacher walking in the door. Why do you need this many glue sticks and this and that and the other? And as soon as those hallways were filled with artwork and everyone was raving about the job I was doing, no one ever counted my glue sticks again. So in some situations, I certainly know not all, you can kind of prove yourself and become an asset to the school that miraculously your things will be taken care of. Now, when you have very little, don't be shy about it. Let the school know that you don't have a lot. You may be able to get donations or money from PTA or grants, and be clear with your classroom teachers that they cannot borrow items. I like to have just a little kit where if someone's going to borrow paintbrushes and paint, they take these ones. They don't take our nice ones. So that's something you might want to set up too to help your budget. But I wouldn't be sharing your core materials and setting up a system. Either you have things labeled, you have cabinets locked, you send out an email, you have funny little signs, whatever you got to do, but make sure you're protecting the supplies that you do have and that you're teaching your students how to care for your materials so that what you do have, you're really putting to good use. A very overwhelming thing about being an elementary art teacher is how many grades we teach. I am K through 6, so that is 7 different grade levels. That's a lot of lessons. That's a lot of different materials that I am teaching. For me, I've been teaching for 22 years. This is something that has just gotten easier for me over time. At this point in time, I'm probably doing 1 brand new lesson to me at each grade level in the whole school year because my standards of what I'm setting up as a lesson. So when I'm doing a lesson, I teach with Google Slides. So I'm making a slide deck. I'm making an example. I'm making an objective poster. I am creating handouts for students. I'm coming up with planning sheets for students. If it's a new material that we're using, I often come up with like technique charts where they're able to do a little bit of guided practice before they jump into the project. I have some examples of that on Teachers Pay Teachers. But because it's so much work to do those new lessons, I'm not doing those super frequently. I mean, I make tweaks here and there with things. I do things in different variations. But for the most part, I'm setting a plan to get some really good solid lessons and get everything together with it because I'm going to do it again. Hopefully you're going to have a long, happy career as an art teacher and you want to set a path for yourself to be able to do these lessons successfully the next year. That being said, there's a lot of different lessons out there. And if I was starting out, I think as I was taking in ideas, I might sort them from, woo, this is super easy, takes no prep, and woo, this is really cool, but I would have to do a lot of steps to get these lessons going. And then kind of figure out how you're going to balance that out for yourself, even as far as how messy things are. For me, the way that I structure my school year is I start with drawing and collage because it's easy, it's not so messy, and I can get down those routines about basic things like cleaning up. Now that I'm in the middle of the school year, I'm into the clay, I'm into the printmaking, like all the messy things. Okay, paint is literally everywhere behind me. And I do that all through the middle of the school year. When I get to the 4th quarter, that's when I'm focused on weaving and sewing with my different grade levels, and there's a lot less mess. I can focus on cleaning up my room, preparing for the next year, getting lessons together, prepping materials, making copies for that next school year. So thinking about how you want to structure that, and that's something that's going to come over time. It's something that definitely was a little bit of a learning curve for me. In the beginning, some things that I did to just make it easier was I would have a younger grade lesson, or maybe like 2 grades did something and the upper grades did something. And that's a great way, just needing to remember that if you're going to be doing this again, what classes have already done this? What grade levels have already seen that project so that you're not repeating things the next year? I also did themes. So let's say I wanted to do snowmen. I'm going on Teachers Pay Teachers and finding, different snowmen projects, but I'm getting snowmen books together. I'm getting little snowmen videos together, things like that. So all the resources are there. And then I'm picking kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd. What kind of snow person could they make with what different kind of material that goes along with that theme where I've already gathered all of that stuff. So maybe that's something that you could try for you to make things a little bit easier as you're planning for all of the things. I think it's really hard as art teachers when we feel like we're just not good enough. Maybe we don't feel like we're good enough teachers or good enough artists, or we're getting enough done for our students, or we have enough time to even do a good job. But definitely give yourself some grace because this is not an easy job. And look for other art teachers for inspiration, but also know they may be putting in 300 hours a week to get those projects done. in their own time. They may be coming in over the weekend to get that room looking that clean. Everybody's in a different stage in their career, in their life. So it's really hard to compare yourself to others. I also have realized over time that art is just one of those tough things that you can tell how much time someone's put into it. Like in college, I saw this too. Like someone could possibly not really study for a math test and do okay on the test, right? But if you're turning in a painting, it kind of becomes really obvious how much time you've put into that. And I feel like that is with art teachers. When we're hanging up displays and stuff, if we feel like it's really just thrown together, we're kind of feeling judged because it's not to the level that we wish that it was. I've also noticed everybody's really busy. I'm having a really busy, really tough school year. My schedule is really challenging. I haven't hung up artwork nearly as much as I have in the past. I haven't gotten any comments about it. So I think a lot of times we think people are looking at us and worrying about what we're doing way more than they actually are. So celebrate what you can get done, get better and better every year, but don't give yourself too hard of a time. And know there are some rock star art teachers out there to inspire you. I'm especially enjoying people that I follow on Instagram and getting just the most amazing ideas. Being an elementary art teacher can be very isolating, and you can feel very alone, especially if you're the only art teacher in your building, if you don't know a lot of other art teachers to collaborate with, if you're new in this career, if you've switched careers. It can be very, very overwhelming. It's one of the reasons why I created this YouTube channel, Managing the Mess, so that I could help you to feel less alone in this crazy career. In addition to that, I've started to do workshops and professional development. So if that's something that I could bring to your school district, please reach out to me and let me know if you would be interested in doing one of my workshops. That's something else you'd want to contact me about so I can kind of gauge interest, but it's definitely a goal for me in the coming new year. Many art teachers simply don't feel like the work that they do is valued. Check out this next video to find out the biggest lessons that I learned about being an elementary art teacher. Don't forget to like and subscribe.